Billy Bob Thornton?
Billy Bob Thornton.
Is he AT&T or is he
No,
T-Mobile?
he's T-Mobile. He's definitely T-Mobile. He's out in the boonies talking to his friend and bragging about it.
I know that commercial.
Yeah, that's
I know
T-Mobile.
that commercial.
What's interesting, you didn't know
I
if
didn't know if it was AT&T or T-Mobile, though.
Most definitely T-Mobile.
Okay, I'm going to question you on that.
No, it's right. I'm totally right. Hi, and welcome to GeekWire. I'm GeekWire co-founder Todd Bishop.
And I'm GeekWire co-founder John Cook.
We are coming to you from Seattle, where we get to report each week about what's happening around us in business, technology, and innovation. What happens here matters everywhere, and every week on this show, we get to talk about some of the most interesting and important stories and trends in the news. And John, this week we're not just in Seattle, we're not just in Fremont, we're out on the deck, man.
It's summer in Seattle. What a great spot. Great to see you out here.
Yeah, absolutely. It's good to have you back in town. I know you were out of town for the 4th of July.
Selfie, Todd.
Okay, here we go. All right,
there you go.
do
So
it.
people can know where we're hanging out.
I'll post that in the show notes. There you go. Great radio here. So we are having a party out here on the deck. What exactly are we doing this afternoon?
Well, this is our annual founder open house. So we're having a bunch of startup founders from across the greater Pacific Northwest tech community to come out. We've got about 100 folks planning to come out and just shoot the breeze and enjoy summer in Seattle. The float planes buzzing overhead, the beautiful ships going through the ship canal, the bikers on the Burt Gilman Trail. It's really a celebration of Seattle summer.
Usually we record inside, and when we do, we tend to stop for the Kenmore airplanes as they go overhead. And this time, John, in the spirit of just being in the environment and being outdoors, I think we're just going to run with it.
Let's just roll with it. We'll see what other oddity noises we hear here in the center of the universe of Fremont.
So coming up on the show, I'm actually going to take advantage of the fact that we have some of the top leaders of the Seattle tech community out here on our deck to talk to them for the show, to get their opinions. And you know, John, I know some people, I understand, are sick of hearing about AI, but I'm going to double down on this show because
you just love it.
That's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about how they're using it, whether they're running into token limits, how it's changing how they're hiring and building their companies, and just all sorts of things like that. I mean, it is kind of a moment in time here in July 2026. A lot of the possibilities of AI are becoming clear. A lot of the limitations are becoming clear. And I just want to just get a temperature check and see where people are. So I'm going to do it. I don't care what anybody says.
I love it. Glad we're using all these great entrepreneurs who are coming to the deck to talk about AI.
And to get some insights.
Absolutely. That's part of why we do this.
All right. So before we get into that, and we're going to do that later, this week so far, John, has been a ton of startup news, positive, and a ton of Microsoft news, not
negative.
So much. Let's start with the Microsoft layoffs just briefly. Microsoft laid off 4,800 people. The thing that struck me about this was they really tried to spin this with me, and I think somewhat plausibly, as not as bad as it could have been because of some of the steps that they've taken recently to minimize a lot of the cutbacks that they had to make. They had a voluntary retirement program, which we've talked about. They also said that they've been redeploying engineers into different kinds of positions. And if you look at the comparison, it was around 15,000 in 2 phases last year. And this time it was about 4,800. Now that's globally. Locally, it was much less. It was in the hundreds this time, around 600 versus thousands last time. And so in that way, you can see where it's plausible. But
isn't this normal, though? Because they just finished their fiscal year.
Yes.
Isn't this what they typically go through? Or is this a oddity?
It's kind of like the swallows returning to...
to Capistrano.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
That's right.
It is.
Or the buzzards to Hinckley, Ohio.
is that the case?
I think it was a thing.
The cicadas somewhere else in the United States. Yes, this is the beginning of Microsoft's fiscal year. It's early July. And so this tends to happen, especially for some reason in their sales force and their consulting
Maybe they haven't
ranks.
hit the goals for the last fiscal year, and that's how they cull people.
And one thing that I didn't realize until somebody pointed it out to me was that the salespeople were not eligible for the early retirement. And I think it had to do with their bonuses and their comp structure being different. They weren't able to take part in that. So that played into it as well. Microsoft wasn't able to thin the ranks, as it were, going into the beginning of the fiscal year. as it might have in other parts of the company.
And of course, Xbox.
Yes. Oh my goodness, what a mess.
Yeah.
So Xbox laid off about 1,600 people as part of the 4,800. And in addition to that, Xbox is going to lay off over the course of the fiscal year another 1,600 as they try to right the ship. And the bottom line there is that Microsoft is basically done wasting its money on Xbox. And in years past, the goal was to win the living room, to beat Sony and Nintendo. Clearly, Microsoft's goals now are much more in the realm of AI, and it seems like they just have a lot less patience for video games and consoles. I think they're going to stay
and divesting some gaming studios that they've purchased over the years.
Yes, yes.
And they also purchased Activision for a massive amount of money. And so
yes,
in the 60 billion range.
69 billion, I think it ended up.
So,
and part of the goal there was, unlike hardware, software, video games, is much more profitable. It's more like Microsoft's traditional business. But for one reason or another, they did not see those kinds of profits really translate into the bottom line. And I think Asha Sharma, the new Xbox CEO, has her work cut out for her. And it'll be fascinating to see where that ends up in a year, 2 years, 3 years. So all of that is happening kind of over in Redmond. And I think really one of the most interesting startup stories to come out of the Seattle region so far this week, and perhaps so far, I don't know, maybe this year, is from Thomas Domke, the former GitHub CEO, who has gone off and started a company called Entire. I was debating with... Entire? I was debating where to put the inflection with Tim Porter from Madrona, who is one of the investors in this company. And he said entire, like the entire thing. So this is a company that is essentially providing something of an alternative to GitHub, but at the same time a complement to GitHub. The idea is where with GitHub, you've got a centralized repository of your code. And yes, you can manage those changes from basically anywhere, but basically it's a central repository of your code. Entire allows you now, with this announcement this week, to mirror all that code across multiple regions, much like you might with AWS or Azure. And in that way, it's much more responsive and much more performant. And they are really pitching this as a return to the roots of Git, which is the version control system that GitHub was based on and is based on. And this is something that's fascinating to me in part because Entire, however you're going to say it, they're kind of based here. They're kind of not based here. Thomas Domke and his co-founder are living in Bellevue, Washington, and that's where they work. But much like the infrastructure that they're building, this is a distributed company. And in that way, it kind of throws us for a loop in certain ways.
Yeah, but this is the new era of startups. I mean, we just wrote about another company this week called LogicGate. It's a Chicago-based company, but they just hired a new CEO who has some Microsoft lineage. He has now tapped two new executives, their CMO and their CFO, who've come on board, both from the Seattle technology community. And so they're three top executives for this company, and they're building out. They have a Bellevue office now. They're expanding here. But their three top executives are based in the Seattle area. So, and I asked them in a follow-up, I said, well, do you consider yourself a Chicago-based company still, or are you a Seattle-based company? What is it? And they said, well, we're still Chicago-based, but I mean, they're building out here. They have new offices here. A lot of the executive team is here. And so you are seeing this in the startup ranks. Really, COVID did shift things quite a bit as it relates to where companies are headquartered and where they're based. I mean, you see this on the GeekWire 200 list, which I think we were going to talk about. So you think about a company like ChainGuard, ranked number 4 on the GeekWire 200. One of their co-founders is here. They have several employees, but they are highly distributed. Their CEO is based on the East Coast. So, yeah, it's really kind of hard to track what a Seattle area company is anymore.
And we debate this, especially, as you mentioned, related to the GeekWire 200, which, for those who don't know, is our index of the top privately held technology startups in the Seattle region, 15 years or younger, and actually the broader Pacific Northwest as well. We go into Oregon and a little bit of Idaho and quite a bit of British Columbia and Vancouver especially. And the question becomes, what is a Pacific Northwest company when you start talking about it through this lens? And the other example, and we kind of set a precedent with the second quarter update because at my insistence, in part, we added a company called, I guess you pronounce this Xbow, not Xbow, but Xbow. It's XBOW. It's like Xbox except with a W on the end. They are a really interesting AI company involved in penetration testing, using AI to test the defenses of a company against hackers. And this is actually a company that was also kind of born out of GitHub. In some ways, one of the developers, one of the leaders really of GitHub Copilot started this company. And he is based in Malta, of all places. And yet the company has its headquarters officially in Seattle, and it's based basically in a mailbox in Pioneer Square, where they happen to also have some co-working facilities that they rent out, and some of their employees are.
Yeah, I think I might have to take issue with this one.
Okay.
I would push back on that because I think the original idea behind the GeekWire 200 was to track the up-and-coming companies that are going to become the next powerhouses of the region. And by powerhouse, to me, one aspect of that is certainly employment and jobs.
Yes.
And if you're going to have no employment, no jobs, I would maybe push back a little bit on whether they actually should be on the GeekWire 200 or not.
Yeah, so when you look at it that way, maybe the litmus test should be the location of the CEO.
Yeah, I think that's one thing to look at. But then there are companies that, I mean, Chainguard is one that's on the list. Their CEO's not here. One of their other co-founders is here. They have some engineers here. Then there are companies that have a lot of their workforce here, but the CEO's not here. And so it's tough to navigate this.
It is. I think, though, that should probably be weighted pretty heavily, the location of the CEO.
That, and I think the jobs
Yes.
and number of employees in a region, because that's really what we're tracking to see who becomes the next. Well, I guess in this era of AI, the whole idea is try to get to, the $1 billion one-person startup. So,
Well, and the other premise is for people who are looking for jobs, for people who are looking to sell services to startups, they can look at this list and see, okay, who might be my top prospects in any of those situations. I mean, it is.
Yeah, venture capitalists look at it to see
Yes.
who's coming up the ranks. Absolutely.
For sure. So in a lot of ways, it's an informational list, but it's also a tool that people use. And it's been around for close to 15 years at this point, and we know that it gets heavily used for all of those purposes. When somebody tells me they're looking for a job, one of the first things I do is say, go look at the GeekWire 200. And then I say, talk to John and Prime Team partners at GeekWork.
There you go. So
this is something that I think is still evolving. And I would make the case, though, that entire should be on the list. And I think for the Q3 update, I take what you're saying, and I think Expo probably needs to make a graceful, quiet exit.
We'll see. Maybe the Expo leaders can make their case to us if they're listening out there.
I have, through their PR people at least, tried to get more of an answer about their
What they're
commitment
doing
to the
here,
region.
and
Why is the headquarters here? And to your point, I'm dealing with a third-party PR agency, which is not that unusual, but I have not been able to make contact with the actual CEO. So in that way, I think it speaks to the seriousness of their presence here. If they're not going to talk to GeekWire, I mean, come on.
That's right. That's right. Well, were there any other surprises in the GeekWire 200 since we just did the update here a few days ago?
That's a good question, John. Yes. To me, the rise of hardware companies and hardware writ large, not just, and actually not even consumer hardware at all. I mean, Tin Can was a good example. Tin Can is the sort of retro landline phones for kids. They rose up the list quite a bit. But for me, it was really more about the rise of companies like StarCloud, which is going to be making data centers in space. Helion, Fusion Energy, just recently featured on our new podcast, Positive Charge. In case you haven't heard that, definitely go subscribe and check that out. Those kinds of companies making big bets on physical infrastructure, to me, really stood out about this list. And the degree to which they're getting funding is really what was the hallmark of this past quarter, of this year so far, and was one of the reasons that so many of them rose up the list so quickly.
Yeah, if you keep Helion on that list and consider them in the hardware space. They're a fusion company, renewable energy company. They're the number one company on the GeekWire 200. If you include them in this list of this trend of physical AI, hardware, robotics, AI coming together, 6 of the top 10 companies on the list are in that space. Which is very different than what it would have been 5 years ago or 10 years ago.
And it really goes against the notion that Seattle is a software town. It just is not what this place has been built on from a tech industry perspective. And it's fascinating in that way. It's kind of risky in other ways because these are big bets. Hardware takes a lot of money, a lot of capital. Space, fusion.
Fusion,
I
space.
mean, my goodness.
Yeah, it's like these are really, really big bets.
I thought Lisa Stifler and Laura Scott, the hosts of that new podcast I mentioned, Positive Charge, did a great job laying this out. I mean, Helion has promised Microsoft that it will be delivering energy to the grid for one of its data centers by 2028. I mean, you're talking 2 years, and this technology is not yet proven. And I think throughout this whole thing, you've really got some questions as to the long-term viability of these companies. And so there's some risk to the broader tech economy in that way.
Yeah, fusion is definitely a big bet, very capital intensive. And as you said, it's unproven. We'll see where this goes.
All right, coming up next, I'm going to be talking with guests at our summer event here out on the GeekWire deck in Seattle's Fremont neighborhood about their use of AI, how it's changing, how they hire and run their companies. And I do want to know whether they're running into token limits like I am. Then we're going to come back at the end, John, and I've got a fun trivia question for you.
I can't wait.
So stick around for that. We'll be right back. All right, I am here with Jana Schuster. She is the CEO and founder of StackIQ. Jana, tell me, what is StackIQ?
So StackIQ is a software asset management platform. We help mid-market and enterprise companies identify software and application redundancy within their tech stack. In short, it's like rocket money, but for business.
All right. So first, how are you using AI as a founder, as a CEO?
Everywhere, I think, is the short of it. But as a leader, I use it for all aspects across my daily planning. So I have basically scheduled tasks that tell me as a founder what I need to do on a daily basis. From a team management perspective, it helps us drive more efficient communication with connections with Slack, as well as GitHub, which we use for our code base. And then across the product, we're an AI native platform. So we built the product using AI assistants, both from Claude Code and other agents. We also leverage agentic AI agents throughout the platform for things like document extraction, helping us within our data transformation pipeline and things along those lines. And then on top of that, on our database, we actually have our own LLM that's built on top of that, which enables us to ingest business context for these companies in terms of how they're using different applications. And then it has a self-learning loop that helps us give better and better intelligence and recommendations in terms of the applications and how they're used by our business.
What does that mean practically in terms of what you're able to do when you build products? What does it mean for your team? How many people you have? What are the practical implications of all that?
I think 10 years ago when I founded a company, just to get to a demo or a V1 or MVP product, it would have cost us significant resources, anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 to get a working product. Nowadays, we have a super lean team. It's 2.5, 3 people that are really working on this full time, and we were able to build an enterprise-ready platform leveraging AI and really supercharge our capabilities. What it looks like, for the product itself, we're able to do things that would be much more manual or require a lot of complexity within the product to do. So when you think about document extraction, think about MSA agreements or order forms that you have with vendors. To extract the relevant data can be really, really manual, and we're able to leverage AI to do that very quickly.
If you think of where you are at this stage of your product development and your company, how many people might you have needed in the past prior to these technologies being available to you?
I mean, with the businesses that we serve now and the scale that we're able to support from both an application ingestion perspective, supporting our database of over 10,000 applications that we've put together, including all of their features, and vectorize that database. Like that would have taken at least probably 20 to 30 people for the stage that we are today, and then supporting customers of mid-market enterprise size, equally probably at least 10 people on the service side. So we're able to do it much more leanly. That said, we are going to be hiring quite a bit in the next coming quarters to support the growth that we're anticipating to have, but you can do it with a lot less.
What are the downsides?
The downsides, I would say, is that, models have gotten a lot better in the last year, but I think there's still a long way to go, both in terms of guardrails, both in terms of security and risk, governance of these agentic tools or AI agents that may be used within the product, as well as just the accuracy of the code and the recommendations that's being provided. Part of the reason why we have such a large database of applications and features that we've now vectorized to allow for semantic matching is to prevent hallucinations and keyword matching, right? So we're looking at actual databases rather than, a guess on what a feature functionality of a particular application may be.
In the end, are we better off for all this as a species? This is obviously going well beyond your startup, but would you ever sit back and think, are you just doing more, or are things actually better?
Definitely better. I think, especially if you're curious, if you're creative, if you're interested in building, then you're definitely better off. I think you're not better off if you like to marinate and stay stagnant. But I think us as a species, we're not ones to really stay stagnant. At least that's not what history would suggest.
No, I know you're a DJ as well. Tell me about that and how technology plays into that.
Oh my goodness, yes, I am a DJ. My DJ handle is Yes And. I DJ around Seattle. Just recently did a Pride event and then DJing for Seattle Tech Week as well. But I leverage Cloud Code. I have scheduled tasks where on a weekly basis, for example, based on the genres that I like to DJ in, it provides me with the top songs that I should take a look at, to take a listen to, which as a DJ, building your library is really kind of the end-all and be-all, and it takes a lot of time to listen to a lot of music, and it helps me short-circuit that a little bit.
That's very cool. Yes, and. Great. Well, Jana Schuster, CEO and founder of StackIQ, thank you very much for sitting down with me.
Of course. Thank you.
All right, I'm here with Blake Resnick, the CEO of Brink Drones, and David Benowitz, the VP of Strategy and Marketing for Brink. It's good to have you both here.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Brink is a maker of drones primarily for public safety scenarios, for law enforcement and things like 911 drones. So Blake, how are you seeing AI play out in your role as the CEO in particular?
Yeah, I'm seeing it accelerate software development in particular. Cloud software development, which we have to do a lot of because that's the primary interface that our customers utilize to actually pilot our aircraft, but also embedded software development. There is a ton of software that runs locally on compute that is embedded inside our aircraft. And AI is pretty good at, helping us develop all of that too. It's been very, material and noticeable to our speed of R&D just broadly.
We have a lot of mechanical engineers that are prototyping net new products as well. And a lot of times they have to pair with some type of software engineer to just get something viable to test. But now they really don't anymore with AI. They can kind of vibe something to start, get something kind of basic working, just see if the mechanical level works with a very rudimentary software layer created by AI before it kind of goes into a more kind of appropriate production step for the software team. So I've kind of seen that too, where now the mechanical engineering team can really move much more independently, get to a deeper level before they start involving other resources and other teams.
Are you seeing any kind of downsides, things that you are worried about in terms of your overall productivity as an organization, or things on the horizon that might be causes for concern?
Well, one thing I'll call out is there are a lot of companies that are working on generative AI for hardware specifically, like AI that can draw CAD or help with PCBA layout, etc. And none of that is really at maturity at this point. Certainly like the 3D CAD stuff is not at a point where it can really be practically helpful to our engineering process. So I am fascinated to watch how that sector of the field develops over the coming years.
What about from your perspective, David?
I think it can just be distracting sometimes, right? Like, I think it's great that it can give a lot of capabilities to people who aren't technical to do technical things, but sometimes that's not always a good thing. right? Like, so I think you have to be a little bit more cutthroat and like, hey, we're doing this or we're not doing this. With AI, it does let some people on the road, like while they're traveling, vibe something. You're like, hey, okay, we're not going to do that, guys. So I think that's also a little bit of the challenge because people are really excited about AI. People are also excited to do more than they could do before. And sometimes it's just channeling that effort into like the right process and the right manner.
Are you running into any concerns with token costs and the overall expense of these models and the use of the coding tools?
Yeah, I mean, listen, we are spending money on all of that. However, I think in our case, there's a lot of ROI associated with it. So we're comfortable with the extent to which that's occurring.
Well, Blake and David from Brink Drones, thank you very much for talking with me.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, I'm out here on the GeekWire deck with Boaz Ashkenazi of Shift AI. Boaz, it's great to see you.
Yeah, great to see you too. It's always nice to be hanging out with GeekWire folks during the summer.
So Boaz, tell folks who you are and what you do for people who are not lucky enough to know you.
Yeah, so I have a podcast I've had for many years. I started it when I was at Meta, and it's gone on for going into season 4. And it's a show that interviews AI thought leaders at various companies, some big and some small. And it's been fun because I started it 10 months before ChatGPT came out. So it's kind of a record of all the craziness that's happened in the last 3 years.
How are you using AI? And in particular, how are you using AI to build, however you define that?
Lately, I've been playing around with agents. And one thing I did just to have a sense of like how this would work is I took some old computers that I had out of the closet. One was an old gaming PC and one was an old Mac. And I put OpenClaw on one and I put Claude Cowork and Dispatch on the other. Just because I wanted to see like what would it be like to communicate from my phone to these idle computers that were sitting on my desk at home and see how that felt. And so I started to set up agents just to do simple things for me personally, not so much for my business, but I did tie them to my email and my calendar. I didn't go as far to give it my credit card to make it buy things for me, but I did kind of try to spin up a lot of cron jobs. When I say cron job, I just mean things that are automatically happening for me every day. And I set that up so that it could do things for me. Now, where it really came in handy was for the podcast, because there's a lot of stuff that is just I'm doing over and over and over again. Intros and outros and other kinds of show notes and things that I have to write that I want to get started and could take me to the 80%. So now what I do is with the transcript of the show, I kind of run these jobs daily that spin out a lot of stuff that then I can take. And I'll tend to put that into the assistant and then go back and forth a little bit. So it's a combination of things, but it does save me a ton of time. And, I have a small team that helps me, but it's way smaller than it would be without, using those kind of tools.
You mentioned Dispatch, and I use Claude as well, and I see that sort of in the co-work sidebar at times. And I know just from reading that it's the ability to basically pick up a task somewhere else. So, for example, on your phone, when it's started on your computer. I'd be curious to learn more about your experience with that because it's something I've not been able to experience yet.
So I tried it both ways. And the reason I set up those two computers, I kind of wanted just to feel what Claude's environment, because Claude has co-work, and then it has Dispatch. And Dispatch is the equivalent of OpenClaw and Telegram. So when you're out in the world and your computers are running all the time, you have kind of a relationship with your assistant that's a little bit different than the kind of relationship you have with your Claude chat. And this way, you can talk to cowork from afar and get things spun up, and you come home and they're done, And so it's just, I think a lot of the excitement or the December of 2025 when people were doing a lot of the stuff with OpenClaw was just that feeling of always being able to have access and not having to stop once your laptop top closed, This always kind of kept it running and the assistant was always working for you. I will say the other thing that's come up recently that I think is kind of interesting to talk about is, I had a bunch of Salesforce executives on the show last year, and then they introduced me to a bunch of Slack executives. And so Slack has been really slowly introducing what they call Slackbot, and now Claude has a tag that can go into Slack as well, so they're kind of doing some things with Anthropic. And I was thinking about it as I started to learn more about what they were doing, and it makes a lot of sense because, so many people, not everybody, but many, many people already live in this Slack environment. So it's kind of interesting to think about how these harnesses are developing now and what that looks like for people. Like some people want to be in Terminal. They're a developer and you don't want to leave Terminal. Some non-developers want to be in a different environment. Sometimes it's in CoWork, sometimes it's in Slack, but that kind of interface where you feel comfortable makes sense for all these agents to live. And so I think that I'm trying to explore too, like, where do I want to live? Not necessarily what models I want to use, but what's my harness that I want to live in.
The other thing that I've been using, Amazon Quick. This is Amazon's response to Claude CoWork, and the advantage that I've found with them is the connectors that they have. You mentioned Slack, and the ability to really get a good window into all of your Slack threads, all of your email at the same time. But even more than that, Boaz, you probably use Google Analytics.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I think GA4 is the worst piece of software ever created. That is my personal opinion. I will just say, we're probably not going to get Google Analytics as the next podcast sponsor. Quick has a connector to GA4 that I've not been able to make work natively, at least with Claude CoWork. And the ability to get insights out of your data in that way through natural language queries has been game-changing for me. I know things about the GeekWire audience and about traffic and patterns of readership that I never knew before.
We're seeing that with a lot of source material like that, whether it's analytics or Salesforce or just all the things that everybody dreaded having to go in and pick around. Now you can ask questions against. I think that is a game changer because you want to know something. You don't want to spend an hour trying to figure out where it is in these kind of esoteric programs. But the other thing I think is kind of interesting, and I just experienced this recently. I don't do this a lot, but when you're on a team and you're trying to use agents, most of us, and me included, it's a very personal experience. I'm talking to Claude, and then Claude's answering me, and we're having this exchange, and it's, sometimes it can be powerful. I learned some things. But when you do it in a shared harness, like a Slack or something else, the agent and the answers are happening inside a shared environment. It's multiplayer. And so that's a different experience too. When you as a group are trying to solve a problem and some agent is in there helping you along the way, that's kind of an interesting thing too that I think more and more people are going to start to experience.
Thanks, Boaz.
Yeah, thank you. It's great to talk to you. Always great to talk to you.
Likewise. That was Boaz Ashkenazi. By the way, he also mentioned that he's been getting into the physical AI infrastructure side of things, working with a company called Redapt based in Woodinville, Washington. You can find his podcast at shiftai.fm. All right, we'll be right back with GeekWire Trivia.
Pop quiz, hotshot.
This is GeekWire's Trivia Challenge.
Wouldn't you prefer a good game of chess?
Welcome back. Yes, it is time for GeekWire Trivia. It is Todd Bishop out here on the GeekWire deck with John Cook. We're enjoying this beautiful... The sun is
low
just coming
70s,
out.
sun just peeked out. Ships are rolling by in the ship canal.
Cars
Seattle
are driving
really
by.
is the best place in the summer. It truly is.
Yeah. There's a few other things going on in this neighborhood that we won't point out.
I did just do a Find It, Fix It, but it seemed to have fixed itself. Those that don't know Find It, Fix It outside the Seattle area, it is the app that you can use to report
Abandoned vehicles.
Minor violations of law.
Things that should not be happening in your neighborhood,
Yes.
really, but
Yes.
aren't
I mean, it's a
necessarily
nice app.
illegal. Yes.
It's a nice
Yeah,
app.
Find It, Fix
I
It.
know you've used it before.
Yes,
Yeah.
mostly for things in this neighborhood.
That's right.
All right. I'm banking, John, on you not having read the story that I just posted 15 minutes ago with this trivia question.
Oh, is it entire?
No. That was earlier today. I just posted 15 minutes ago
gosh,
on
I
Mike
thought I was
Katz,
caught up.
On Mike Katz.
I did see the headline, but I haven't read it. And I do know Mike Katz.
Perfect. So Mike Katz is a longtime T-Mobile executive. He most recently was Chief Business and Product Officer. They announced at T-Mobile this week that he's leaving the company. He's been one of the key architects of the uncarrier strategy that turned...
You mean the uncarrier revolution?
The uncarrier revolution that turned T-Mobile from an also-ran into a legitimate powerhouse. John, by the way, I think you're going to like my lead on this story.
Should I look it up? Or is that going to give me
No,
the
it's not.
hint
No,
on
don't look at the story.
Don't look at it? Okay. I just
read-
have seen the headline. That's all
Yes.
I've seen. And I did not know that he had been there for 28 years. That's a long time at
Yes.
T-Mobile. I didn't know So does that include VoiceStream Wireless?
Okay.
Because, oh my God, is that the trivia question? Because I was like, 28
It's
years?
okay.
Is T-Mobile really Has it really been in existence? Oh, wow. Okay. I ruined trivia this week.
It's you know what? Let's just go
Let's
with
just
it.
go with it. Let's morph on it.
Here's my lead. T-Mobile's longest tenured uncarrier architect just uncarriered himself.
That's clever. I like it.
All right. Okay, so here is the trivia question. Before he helped turn T-Mobile into the wireless industry's most formidable competitor, how did Mike Katz first break into the business? Interning at the FCC during the first wireless spectrum auction. Selling voice stream phones at Circuit City.
Oh, wow. That's a good one.
Writing code for BlackBerry's first push email software. Installing satellite dishes for DirecTV during college. Or trying to cancel his own cell phone plan and getting transferred so many times he just stayed on the line.
Okay. Well, given our original conversation, I think I'm going to go with the voice stream.
It is
at
B.
Circuit City.
It is B, in fact.
Circuit
That'll
City.
teach
Boy,
me
that's a blast from the past.
That'll
isn't
teach
it?
me to riff on the episode. You know what?
Well,
let's just roll with it.
Well, let me shoot a trivia question back
Yes.
to you. So, Voice Stream Wireless eventually
Jamie
became
Lee Curtis.
eventually became
Is that what you were gonna ask
T-Mobile.
me?
No.
John Stanton.
Yes, that's who I was going to ask. I was going to ask who was the founder of Voice Stream Wireless that created Voice Stream Wireless that eventually went on to T-Mobile. But yes, John Stanton, who's now the owner of the Seattle Mariners.
We're both just completely ruining each other's questions.
That's
this week.
right.
It's kind of like reverse Jeopardy here. I'll just yell out the answer.
That's right.
You
got it first. Yeah, you got it before I even asked the question.
And Jamie Lee Curtis was the spokesperson. Was it for Voice Stream?
Gosh,
Let's
that
look
is
that
really
up because
good.
we're going to
That's
say
really
that.
good. And
maybe
then,
that should have been the question.
Or because Mike Katz was involved in marketing, you could have done a question around which spokespeople have represented T-Mobile over the years.
Oh, wow.
Because there have been a lot of them, right?
Yes. Yeah.
There have been a lot of different
Oh, that would have
spokespeople.
been so much better. What's the guy's name? Billy
Bob Thornton?
Billy Bob Thornton.
Is he AT&T or is he
No,
T-Mobile?
he's T-Mobile. He's definitely T-Mobile. He's out in the boonies talking to his friend and bragging about it.
I know that commercial.
Yeah, that's
I know that commercial.
What's interesting, you didn't know
I
if
didn't know if it was AT&T or T-Mobile, though.
Most definitely T-Mobile.
Okay, I'm going to question you on that.
No, it's right. I'm totally right.
Well, you got to admit, T-Mobile has had a transformational brand experience over 20 years. I mean,
it's really, and of course, it all comes down to John Ledger and the team that he assembled,
and the marketing team, including Mike Katz. I mean,
and Mike Siebert.
Yeah,
too.
they really. I mean, there's some marketing horsepower on that team because they did a tremendous job.
Are you on T-Mobile?
Yes.
How is it for you?
I love it.
Okay.
Yeah, it works very well for me. Yeah.
See, I reached a breaking point maybe 4 or 5 years ago when I was driving through rural California, and I was like, I am so tired of this phone dropping 5 miles outside of Hamilton City, California. I can't take it anymore, and I switched to Verizon. And
you did?
Oh, I did. Yeah, because you remember I originally switched to T-Mobile from AT&T to get John Ledger to talk at the GeekWire Summit in 2017, 2016, or whatever that was. And no, I switched back. It is Billy Bob Thornton.
You confirmed it?
Yes, I'm correct. Of course I'm correct.
Okay, good. Well, historically, T-Mobile was much weaker in some of the rural areas, and
with the Sprint merger,
I never quite experienced that because I joined T-Mobile a little bit later. I think it did get stronger and better because I do test that when I'm in more rural Ohio, and it works just fine there.
Yeah. I will say I do miss the perks. I don't know if
the
do they
perks
still
are great.
do that?
The
Wi-Fi
the free
on the
Wi-Fi on certain airlines is just great. So
yeah, I miss that.
So here are some other ones. John Travolta.
Really?
Yeah, appeared in a Super Bowl commercial with Zach Braff and Donald Faison.
Does Super Bowl really count, though? It's not like
Jason Momoa featured in a Super Bowl ad. Bradley Cooper appeared in T-Mobile advertising promoting satellite connectivity. Catherine Zeta-Jones and Jamie Lee Curtis during the voice stream T-Mobile transition. And one of your favorite rappers from your home state, Todd.
Ooh, Ice-T?
No. Come on. He's in everything. He hangs out with Martha Stewart.
Oh, Snoop.
Snoop Dogg. So now you know you've hit a lot of the top celebs when you got Snoop Dogg repping your brand.
What about Carly Folks? Do you remember Carly
No,
Folks?
I don't even know who that is.
Carly Folks was the T-Mobile spokeswoman who always rode a motorcycle around, a Ducati. Do you remember this? I think
No,
this was
I don't
early in
remember this
the
at all.
John Ledger era, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, she replaced Catherine Zeta-Jones, and she was kind of like I forget what the shtick was, but she was kind of like the motorcycle spokesperson sort of the new Rebel era.
So there you have it. I think we turned this into a great trivia segment across
Even though we
all of
spoiled it.
T-Mobile. We spoiled all of our questions, but the celeb endorsers of T-Mobile is interesting.
All right, John. Well, hopefully this survives the edit out here on the deck, and hopefully people didn't get totally overwhelmed by the cars and the planes and the other random noises for the Fremont neighborhood.
Planes, trains, and
AI.
And AI.
Curt Milton edited this episode. Until next time, I'm Todd Bishop.
And I'm John Cook.
Thanks for listening to the GeekWire podcast.